My name is Emma Chen, and I thought I knew everything there was to know about betrayal, until I found out my own family buried my sister without telling me. The rain was beating against my apartment window in downtown Portland when I got the call that changed everything. It wasn't from my parents, my aunt, or any of the relatives who had cut me out of their lives 3 years ago. It was from Mrs. Henderson, my sister Lily's elderly neighbor, her voice shaking as she spoke. "Emma, dear, I'm so sorry to be the one telling you this, but Lily passed away 2 weeks ago. The funeral was last Thursday." The phone slipped from my hand, clattering onto my hardwood floor. 2 weeks. My sister had been dead for 2 weeks, and nobody had the decency to tell me. The last time I'd spoken to Lily was 6 months ago, a brief, awkward conversation where she'd tried to convince me to reconcile with our parents. I'd refused, as always, and we'd ended the call on a tense note. Our family had been fractured since the day I came out as gay at 19. What started as disappointment from our traditional Chinese-American parents had escalated into something much worse when I refused to go through with the arranged marriage they'd planned. They'd given me an ultimatum: conform to their expectations or lose my family. I'd chosen my authenticity, and it had cost me everything. Lily had tried to be the bridge between us for years, but eventually, even she'd grown tired of my stubbornness, as she called it. Or maybe she'd just chosen sides, and it wasn't mine. I grabbed my keys with trembling hands and drove through the October drizzle to Lily's house in the Hawthorne district. Mrs. Henderson met me at the front door, her eyes red-rimmed behind thick glasses. "I kept thinking someone would contact you," she said, leading me up the steps to Lily's front porch. "When I didn't see you at the service, I knew something was wrong. Your sister talked about you all the time, you know. She missed you terribly." The house felt hollow, like all the warmth had been sucked out of it. Lily's art supplies were still scattered across the dining room table: watercolor paints, brushes, half-finished canvases of Portland's bridges. She'd always been the artistic one, while I'd buried myself in my work as a software developer. "She left something for you," Mrs. Henderson said, pulling a small package from her purse. "She gave this to me about a month ago, made me promise to give it to you if anything ever happened to her. Said the family wasn't to know about it." My heart hammered as I unwrapped the brown paper. Inside was a USB drive and a note in Lily's careful handwriting. "Emma, watch this alone. Trust no one else with it. I love you more than they'll ever let you know. L." Back in my apartment, I stared at the USB drive for what felt like hours. The rain had intensified, drumming against my windows like impatient fingers. Finally, I plugged it into my laptop. The video file was labeled "For Emma's Eyes Only, October 15th. That was just 3 weeks ago. Lily had recorded this shortly before she died. When I clicked play, my sister's face filled the screen. She looked terrible, thin, pale, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. She was sitting in her living room, the one I'd just been in, with the afternoon light streaming through her gauze curtains. "Hi, Em," she said, and her voice was so weak it broke my heart. "If you're watching this, then I'm gone, and I'm betting they didn't tell you. I'm so sorry for that. I'm sorry for a lot of things." She paused to cough, a harsh sound that made me wince. "I've been sick for 8 months now. Pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave me maybe a year when they first found it, but it's moving faster than anyone expected." My hands flew to my mouth. 8 months. She'd been battling cancer for 8 months, and I'd had no idea. "I wanted to tell you so many times," Lily continued, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Every time we talked, I almost said something. But Mom and Dad made me promise not to. They said you'd made your choice to leave the family, and that you didn't deserve to know. They said you'd only come back out of guilt, not love." Rage burned in my chest, hot and immediate. How dare they? How dare they keep this from me? "But I need you to know that's not why I didn't tell you," Lily said, leaning closer to the camera. "I didn't tell you because I was scared you'd drop everything to take care of me, and I couldn't bear the thought of you sacrificing your life for mine. You've already given up so much for your principles, Emma. I didn't want to be another burden." The video had a timestamp. It was nearly 2 hours long. I settled in, knowing that whatever my sister had to tell me was going to change everything. "There are things you don't know, Em. Things about why our family really fell apart, and things about me that I should have told you years ago. I'm going to tell you everything now, because you deserve the truth, and because there's something I need you to do for me after I'm gone." She reached for a glass of water with shaking hands, and I noticed how thin her wrists had become. My vibrant, artistic sister was disappearing before my eyes, even in a recording. First, I need you to know that I never stopped fighting for you. Every family dinner, every holiday, every time your name came up, I defended you. I told them they were wrong to cut you out, that love should be unconditional. But Emma, there's something else. Something I've been hiding from everyone, including you. My pulse quickened. What could she possibly have hidden from me? We'd shared everything growing up. Fears, dreams, secrets about boys, complaints about our strict parents. I'm gay too, Emma. The words hit me like a physical blow. I had to rewind and listen again to make sure I'd heard correctly. I've known since I was 16, but I've been hiding it my whole life. When you came out and they reacted so badly, I got scared. I watched them disown you, and I couldn't face going through the same thing. So I stayed in the closet. I dated men they approved of. I played the role of the perfect daughter, and I let you take all their anger and disappointment. She was sobbing now, her words coming in broken fragments. I've hated myself for it every single day. You were so brave, so strong, and I was such a coward. While you were building an authentic life, I was living a lie. While you were finding love with Sarah, I was pretending to date men I had no feelings for. Sarah. She remembered Sarah, my ex-girlfriend from college. We'd broken up 2 years ago, but it touched me that Lily had paid attention to that part of my life, even when we were barely speaking. The worst part is, our parents know. They've always known about me. Mom caught me with my girlfriend Jessica when I was 17. You remember Jess, my best friend from high school? They gave me the same ultimatum they gave you, but I chose differently. I chose to stay and lie. The room felt like it was spinning. Everything I thought I knew about my family, about the reason for our estrangement, was crumbling around me. They've been using me as a weapon against you all these years, Lily continued. Look at Lily, they'd say. She chose family over selfishness. She chose duty over personal desires. But it was all fake, Em. Every perfect daughter moment, every time they held me up as an example of what you should have been, it was all a lie. I paused the video and walked to my kitchen, needing something cold to drink. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the glass of water. Outside, the Portland skyline was blurred by rain and my own tears. The Space Needle in Seattle was visible in the distance, a reminder of how far I'd come from our childhood home in the suburbs. When I returned to the video, Lily was composed again, though her eyes were still red. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand something. The reason I got sick, the reason the cancer came so aggressively, the doctors think it's partly because of stress. Years and years of living a double life, of suppressing who I really am, of carrying the weight of this family's expectations and secrets. My body just gave up. The guilt that washed over me was overwhelming. While I'd been angry at Lily for not supporting me, she'd been slowly killing herself trying to maintain peace in a family that was fundamentally broken. But here's the thing, Emma. I need you to do something for me. Something that's going to require all of that courage you showed when you came out. I need you to expose the truth. She leaned forward again, her voice gaining strength. There are more videos on this drive. Recordings of conversations with Mom and Dad, documents, emails, everything you need to understand just how deep their hypocrisy goes. But more importantly, there are videos of me talking about my real life, my real relationships, my real feelings. I want you to share them. My breath caught. Share them? With who? As if she could hear my question, Lily continued. I want you to make this public, Em. I want the world to know what happened to our family, and I want Mom and Dad to face the consequences of their choices. They destroyed 2 daughters instead of just 1, and they need to be held accountable. The camera shook slightly as she adjusted it, and I could see the effort even this recording was costing her. I know it sounds like revenge, but it's not. It's about truth. It's about making sure no other families go through what ours did. It's about showing parents that unconditional love means exactly that, unconditional. She reached for something off camera and held up a photograph. It was the 2 of us at my high school graduation, arms around each other, laughing at something I couldn't remember. We looked so young, so hopeful, so unaware of the pain that was coming. I miss you, Emma. I miss my sister, my best friend, the person who taught me that it was okay to be different. I'm sorry I didn't have your strength. I'm sorry I let fear win for so long. But maybe in the end, I can still do something brave. Maybe I can still stand up for what's right. The video was pausing automatically every few minutes, giving me time to process what I was hearing. Each pause felt like a small mercy, a chance to catch my breath before the next revelation. "There's one more thing," Lily said when I resumed the video. "Jessica and I never broke up. We've been together for 11 years, living as roommates as far as the family knows. She wanted to come to you when I got sick, wanted to reach out and tell you the truth, but I made her promise not to. She's been taking care of me through everything, pretending to be just a friend helping out a sick roommate. Jessica, sweet, quiet Jessica who had always been around during high school, who I'd assumed was just Lily's closest friend. They'd been living as a couple all these years, hiding in plain sight. She's going to need support after I'm gone, Em. She loved me as much as you did, but she can't grieve openly. She can't tell people she lost the love of her life. She has to pretend she lost a roommate. The injustice of it all was staggering. Not only had my parents robbed me of time with my dying sister, but they'd also condemned another young woman to grieve in silence. The funeral is going to be hard for her. She'll have to sit in the back, pretend she's just a friend, watch Mom and Dad get sympathy for losing a daughter while she gets nothing. I hate that I'm putting her through that, but I didn't know how else to protect her. As the first chapter of Lily's video came to an end, she looked directly into the camera with an intensity I remembered from our childhood. "I'm going to rest now, but there's so much more I need to tell you. About the business, about Dad's real reasons for disowning you, about the money, and about what I need you to do with all of this information. Promise me you'll watch everything, Em. Promise me you won't let fear stop you from doing what's right." The screen went black, showing Chapter 1 of 4. Continue watching? I looked out at the Portland night, rain still beating against my windows like tears. Somewhere across town, Jessica was probably alone in the house she'd shared with my sister, surrounded by memories and unable to openly mourn. Somewhere else, my parents were probably sitting in their pristine home, congratulating themselves on keeping the family scandal contained. They had no idea what was coming. I clicked continue and prepared myself for whatever other secrets my sister had died protecting. The night was going to be long, but Lily deserved to have her story told. She deserved to have someone finally fight for the truth. And after 11 years of silence, I was ready to fight. The second video began immediately, and I could see that Lily had recorded it on a different day. She looked slightly better. There was more color in her cheeks, and she was sitting up straighter. This one was dated September 20th, almost a month before her death. "Hi again, Em. I hope you made it through the first video okay. I know it was a lot to take in. Jessica made me some tea and convinced me to eat something before recording this part, so I'm feeling a little stronger today." At the mention of Jessica's name, I felt a pang of guilt. I should have known. Looking back, there had been signs. The way Lily's eyes lit up when she talked about Jessica. How they always seemed to be together. The comfortable familiarity between them that I'd mistaken for deep friendship. This part is going to be harder to hear because it's about Dad's business and why he really disowned you. It wasn't just because you're gay, Emma. It was because you threatened something much more important to him than his reputation. His money. I frowned at the screen. Dad owned a small chain of restaurants in Portland and Seattle. Successful, but nothing that would make him rich. What could that possibly have to do with my coming out? Do you remember when you were studying computer science at Portland State, and you were always talking about starting your own tech company? You had that idea for the restaurant management software, the one that would help small business owners track inventory and manage staff schedules? I did remember. I'd been so excited about it, had even started building a prototype. I'd shown it to Dad once, thinking he might want to test it in his restaurants. He'd seemed interested but never followed up. Well, he didn't just ignore your idea, Em. He stole it. My blood ran cold. What? After you left for college and before everything fell apart with the family, Dad took your prototype to a developer in Seattle. He had them finish it, patent it, and build it into a full software package. He's been selling licenses to restaurant owners across the Pacific Northwest for the past 8 years. The business has made him over $2 million. I stood up so fast, my chair rolled backward into the wall. $2 million from my idea, my software concept that I'd naively shared with someone I thought I could trust. The company is called Chen Solutions. Cute, right? He used our family name on the business, built from his daughter's stolen intellectual property. But here's the really sick part. When you came out and he was looking for reasons to justify cutting you off, he convinced himself that he deserved the money because you'd betrayed the family values that built his restaurant business in the first place. Lily paused to sip her tea, and I could see her hands trembling slightly. The effort of these recordings was clearly taking a toll, but she was determined to get through it. I found out about it by accident 2 years ago. I was helping Dad organize his office, and I came across the patent documents. When I confronted him about it, he didn't even try to deny it. He said you'd abandoned the family, so you'd abandoned any claim to family resources, including your ideas. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking. Not only had my parents disowned me for being gay, but my father had built a fortune from my stolen work and used my sexuality as justification for keeping it. I threatened to tell you, and that's when Mom and Dad sat me down for one of their family meetings. They reminded me of my own secret, Em. They said that if I caused trouble over this, they'd not only disown me too, but they'd make sure Jessica's conservative family found out about us. Jessica's parents don't even know she's gay. They think she's just career-focused and hasn't found the right man yet. The manipulation was staggering. My parents had used both of their daughters' secrets as weapons against them, creating a system of mutual assured destruction that kept everyone silent. So I kept quiet. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't risk Jessica's relationship with her family. She's all they have. Her parents are getting older, and she sends them money every month. If they disowned her too. Lily's voice trailed off. I understood. Jessica was trapped just like Lily had been, just like I had been before I chose to break free. The difference was that Jessica had more people who could get hurt if the truth came out. But it gets worse, Em. Dad didn't just steal your one idea. Remember all those late-night conversations we had when you were developing the software? You told me about your other ideas too. The customer loyalty app, the supply chain management system, the employee scheduling algorithm. He's been working on those too. My laptop screen began to blur as tears filled my eyes. It wasn't just about the money, though $2 million would have changed my life completely. It was about the violation of trust, the calculated cruelty of stealing from your own child and then using their sexuality to justify it. I have documents, Em, copies of everything. The original patent applications with your code snippets, emails between Dad and the developers where he specifically mentions his daughter's prototype, bank records showing the income from Chen Solutions. I've been quietly gathering evidence for 2 years, waiting for the right time to give it to you. She reached for a folder just off camera and held up a stack of papers. It's all here, and it's all digitized on the USB drive. You have enough evidence to sue for intellectual property theft and recover everything he owes you plus damages. The legal implications were staggering, but that wasn't what hit me the hardest. What broke my heart was imagining 20-year-old me excitedly sharing my ideas with my father, thinking we were bonding over business and technology. I'd been so naive, so trusting. There's more, Lily continued, and I braced myself for whatever other betrayal she was about to reveal. Mom knew about all of it. She helped him research the patent process, helped him find the developers, even helped him come up with the marketing strategy. This wasn't Dad acting alone in a moment of greed. This was a calculated family decision to steal from you. I had to pause the video again. My parents, both of them, had looked me in the eye for years, knowing they'd built their increased wealth on the back of my stolen work. Every awkward phone conversation, every tense family gathering before I was finally cut off, they'd been sitting on this secret. When I resumed the video, Lily was looking directly into the camera with an expression I'd never seen before, pure, cold anger. They don't know that I know about the money, and they definitely don't know that I've been documenting everything. But here's what I want you to do with this information, Em. I want you to take them for everything they're worth. The venom in her voice was startling. Sweet, peacekeeping Lily, who'd spent her whole life trying to hold our family together, was finally ready to burn it all down. Not just the money you're owed, though you should definitely get that. I want you to expose what they did publicly. I want Chen Solutions clients to know that the software they're paying for was stolen from a daughter who was disowned for being gay. I want their church friends, their business partners, their social circle. I want everyone to know exactly who Richard and Susan Chen really are. She set down her tea and folded her hands in her lap, looking more composed than she had since the video started. I've already consulted with a lawyer about this, Em. Not our family lawyer. God knows he couldn't be trusted. But someone independent. The attorney's name is Marcus Webb, and he specializes in intellectual property cases. I've been paying him for 2 years to build a case on your behalf. My jaw dropped. Lily had been secretly building a legal case for me while battling cancer and maintaining her double life. The logistics alone must have been exhausting. Marcus has all the documents, and I've already signed an affidavit detailing what I witnessed and what I know. Even if the family tries to claim I was confused or lying because of the cancer medications, there's enough hard evidence to prove the case without my testimony. She smiled then, the first genuine smile I'd seen in either video. You know what the best part is? The patent is going to expire next year, and Dad's been scrambling to figure out how to extend his revenue stream. He's invested most of the profits back into expanding the software, developing new features, building a customer base. If you sue now and win, you won't just get the money he's already made, you'll own the rights to the software and all future profits. The strategic brilliance of it was impressive. Lily had been playing the long game, gathering evidence and building a case, while our parents thought they were safe from consequences. Marcus estimates the total value of the stolen intellectual property, including future earnings, at somewhere between $5 and $8 million. Dad's going to lose everything, Em. The restaurants, the house, their comfortable retirement, all of it built on money that was never rightfully theirs. I thought about my parents' house, the one I'd grown up in, with its perfectly manicured lawn and expensive furniture. I thought about their country club membership, their luxury cars, their annual vacations to Europe. How much of that lifestyle had been funded by my stolen work? But more than the money, I want you to think about what this means for other families like ours. Parents who think they can use their children's sexuality as justification for any kind of cruelty. Parents who believe that disowning a gay child somehow gives them moral permission to steal from them too. Lily's voice was growing stronger as she spoke, as if the prospect of justice was giving her energy. When this goes public, and it will go public, it's going to be a cautionary tale. It's going to show the world that there are consequences for treating your children like disposable commodities. It's going to make other parents think twice before they choose their reputation over their child's well-being. The camera wobbled slightly as she adjusted her position, and I could see that even this burst of energy was taking a toll on her deteriorating body. I know this is a lot to ask of you, Em. I know you've spent years trying to build a life separate from our family drama, but I need you to fight this battle, not just for yourself, but for me, and for Jessica, and for every other kid who gets thrown away by parents who think love comes with conditions. She reached for a piece of paper and held it up to the camera. It was a business card for Marcus Webb, attorney at law. His office is downtown, just a few blocks from your apartment. I told him you might be contacting him after I'm gone. He's a good man, Em. He lost his own son to suicide after the kid was disowned by his family for being transgender. He's been waiting for a case like this, something that might make a real difference. The personal connection explained why Lily had trusted this particular lawyer with such a sensitive case. Marcus Webb wasn't just looking for a payday, he was looking for justice. There's one more thing I need to tell you about the business, and this might be the hardest part to hear. Lily's expression grew serious again. Dad's been using the success of Chen Solutions to justify his treatment of you to anyone who will listen. He tells people that cutting you off was the right decision because look how well the family is doing without you. He uses his financial success as proof that traditional values and family loyalty pay off. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. Not only had he stolen my work, but he was using the profits to prove that disowning me had been the right choice. So when you take him down, Em, you're not just recovering what's yours, you're destroying the narrative he's built about himself, about our family, about the righteousness of his choices. You're proving that his success was built on theft and lies, not values and hard work. Lily was breathing heavily now, clearly exhausted by the emotional weight of these revelations. I need to rest again, but there are 2 more videos to go. The next one is about Jessica and what she's been going through, and what I need you to do to help her. The last one is my goodbye and my final request. She looked directly into the camera with an intensity that reminded me of our mother, though Mom had never looked at me with such love and determination. I'm proud of you, Emma. I'm proud that you chose authenticity over acceptance, that you built a life based on truth instead of lies. I'm sorry it took me so long to find that same courage, but I'm going to try to use what time I have left to do the right thing. The screen went black again, showing Chapter 2 of 4. Continue watching? I looked at the business card in my hand, Marcus Webb's contact information. Outside, the Portland night was deep and quiet, the rain finally stopping. Somewhere in this city, a lawyer was waiting to help me reclaim not just my stolen work, but my family's honor. Somewhere else, my parents were sleeping peacefully, unaware that their carefully constructed life of lies was about to come crashing down. I thought about 20-year-old Emma, so excited about her software ideas, so eager to share them with her family. She couldn't have imagined that her trust would be so completely violated, or that her love would be so calculatingly exploited. But she also couldn't have imagined that her sister would spend years building a case for justice, gathering evidence with the methodical precision of someone who truly understood the weight of family betrayal. I was ready for Chapter 3. I was ready to learn about Jessica's story, and I was ready to start planning how to make my parents pay for what they'd done to both of their daughters. The fight was just beginning. The third video began with Lily looking noticeably weaker than in the previous recordings. This one was dated October 10th, just 5 days before her death. She was lying in bed now, propped up with pillows, and I could hear the soft hum of medical equipment in the background. "Hi, Em. I'm sorry I look so rough. The treatments aren't really working anymore, so we've decided to focus on making me comfortable instead of trying to buy more time." Her voice was barely above a whisper, but her eyes were still bright with determination. "I need to tell you about Jessica now, because she's been the real hero in all of this, and she's going to need you when I'm gone." As if on cue, I heard a door open off camera, and a familiar voice said, "Lily, honey, do you need anything? More water? Come here, Jess. I want Em to see you." A woman stepped into the frame, and my breath caught. Jessica had changed since high school. Her hair was shorter now, cut in a stylish bob, and she wore glasses that suited her heart-shaped face. But her gentle smile was exactly as I remembered it. "Hi, Emma," Jessica said, settling into a chair beside Lily's bed. "I've wanted to talk to you for so long." Lily reached for Jessica's hand, and the gesture was so natural, so full of practiced intimacy, that it broke my heart all over again. They'd been together for 11 years, loving each other in secret, while my parents used their relationship as leverage. "Jessica's been taking care of me through everything," Lily continued. "She's the one who drove me to all my appointments, who researched treatment options, who held my hair back when the chemo made me sick. She's been my wife in every way that matters, except we could never make it legal because our families would disown us both." Jessica's eyes filled with tears, but she squeezed Lily's hand encouragingly. "Tell her about the job, honey." "Right." Lily turned back to the camera. "Jessica's been working as a nurse at OHSU for the past 5 years. She's brilliant, Em. Specialized in oncology because she wanted to understand my diagnosis better, wanted to be able to advocate for me in a way that a regular partner couldn't. Oregon Health and Science University. I'd driven past the hospital countless times, never knowing that the love of my sister's life was inside, caring for other families going through what they were experiencing in secret. But here's the thing," Lily continued. "Jessica's been using all her vacation time and sick days to take care of me. She's exhausted her medical leave options. When I'm gone, she's not going to be eligible for bereavement leave because officially, she's just losing a roommate." The bureaucratic cruelty of it was staggering. Jessica was going to lose the person she loved most in the world, but she wouldn't even be granted the basic compassion that legally recognized spouses received. "Her supervisor knows something's not right," Jessica spoke up, her voice soft but steady. "I've been emotional at work, calling in sick more often than usual. I think she suspects we're more than friends, but she can't officially acknowledge it without me coming out, which would put my job at risk. Jessica's parents think she's just been helping out a sick friend," Lily added. "They've been proud of her for being so caring and selfless. If they knew the truth, they'd disown me," Jessica finished simply. "I'm their only child, and they're very traditional. Catholic, conservative, the whole package. They've been asking me for years when I'm going to find a nice man and give them grandchildren." I thought about my own coming out experience, the choice between authenticity and family acceptance. At least I'd been able to make that choice. Jessica had watched me get disowned for being gay, had seen the pain it caused, and had decided to remain closeted to protect both herself and Lily. "The funeral is going to be the worst part," Lily said, her voice breaking slightly. "Jessica will have to sit in the back with the acquaintances and neighbors. Mom and Dad will get all the sympathy and support. Everyone will talk about how they lost their daughter, but nobody will know that Jessica lost the love of her life." Jessica wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I keep thinking about after, about going back to that house every day, surrounded by all of Lily's things, and not being able to tell anyone why it hurts so much, having people ask me when I'm going to find my own place, now that my roommate is gone. The isolation she was describing was heartbreaking. Not only would she be grieving, but she'd have to hide the depth of her loss from everyone in her life. "That's why I need you, Em," Lily said, looking directly into the camera. "Jessica is going to need someone who knows the truth, someone who understands what she's losing. She's going to need family, even if it's not the family she was born into." The request was clear, but I wasn't sure I was the right person for the job. I'd been out of touch with both of them for years. What comfort could I offer? "I know what you're thinking," Lily continued, as if she could read my doubts. "You're thinking that you don't really know Jessica anymore, that you're not close enough to help her through something this big. But Em, you're the only person in the world who understands what it's like to be gay and rejected by our family. You're the only one who can help her figure out what comes next." Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I've been living Lily's version of the closet for 11 years. I don't even know how to be myself anymore. When she's gone, I'm going to have to decide whether to keep pretending or to finally live openly. And I'm terrified of making that choice alone." The weight of what they were asking hit me. They wanted me to help Jessica navigate the same impossible choice I'd faced at 19. The choice between authenticity and family acceptance. But this time, there would be the added complexity of grief and the knowledge of what that choice had cost our family. "There's something else," Lily said, glancing at Jessica before continuing. "We need your help with the house. It's in my name, but Jessica's been paying half the mortgage for 6 years. When I die, my parents are going to inherit everything, including a house that Jessica's been financially supporting." Another layer of injustice. Jessica had been building equity in a home she'd never legally owned, supporting a mortgage that would ultimately benefit the same parents who'd used her relationship as blackmail. "I've been trying to figure out how to protect her," Lily continued. "But every solution I come up with requires legal recognition of our relationship, which we don't have. I can't leave her the house in my will without raising questions about why I'm giving such a valuable asset to a friend. The house is worth about $400,000 now," Jessica added. "I've put almost $80,000 into mortgage payments, plus thousands more in improvements and repairs. If your parents inherit it, I'll lose everything I've invested." The financial abuse was staggering. My parents were going to profit from Jessica's love and labor, just as they'd profited from my stolen intellectual property. "But here's what we've figured out," Lily said, a spark of her old mischievousness returning to her eyes. "If you sue them for the intellectual property theft and win, you'll have leverage. You could potentially force them to sell assets to pay the judgment, including the house. And if Jessica is living there as a tenant with rights, she might be able to buy it from whoever ends up with it." The strategic thinking was impressive, but the logistics seemed complicated. "How would that work exactly?" As if anticipating my question, Jessica pulled out a folder and opened it on the bed between them. "We've been working with Marcus Webb on this too. He thinks there's a way to structure the lawsuit so that it forces your parents to liquidate assets quickly. If I can get a loan pre-approved and have cash ready, I might be able to buy the house before they have time to figure out how to keep it." "The key is timing, Lily. The key is timing," Lily continued. "You need to file the lawsuit right after the funeral, while they're still reeling from my death, and before they have time to start planning how to handle my estate. Marcus thinks the shock value will work in our favor. They won't be thinking clearly about protecting their assets." Jessica nodded, pulling out a thick stack of papers. "I've already been pre-approved for a mortgage that would cover the house's full value. The bank thinks I'm buying it as an investment property. I just need about 2 weeks between when the lawsuit is filed and when they're forced to put it on the market." The complexity of their plan was astounding. While battling terminal cancer and living in the closet, Lily had orchestrated a strategy to protect Jessica's financial future and force our parents to face consequences for their actions. "But there's a risk," Lily admitted, her voice growing weaker. "If the timing doesn't work out, if something goes wrong with the lawsuit or the mortgage approval, Jessica could lose everything. The house, the money she's invested, her job if she has to come out publicly during the legal proceedings." "I know the risks," Jessica said firmly. "I've known them for years. Every day I stayed in the closet was a risk. Every day I let your parents use my relationship as leverage was a risk. At least now I'm choosing to take a risk that might actually lead somewhere better." Lily smiled at that. the kind of proud, loving smile I remembered from our childhood. She's braver than she thinks, Em. She's been brave every day for 11 years, just in ways that nobody could see. I thought about the courage it must have taken to love someone so completely while hiding that love from the world, to build a life together while pretending to be just friends, to care for a dying partner while having to explain to everyone that you were just being a good roommate. After the lawsuit is filed and the house situation is resolved, Jessica's going to have to decide what to do about the rest of her life, Lily continued. Whether to come out to her family, whether to stay in Portland, or start fresh somewhere else, whether to keep working at the hospital where she's been hiding who she is for years. Jessica looked directly into the camera then, and I could see the exhaustion in her eyes. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. Part of me wants to run away, start over somewhere where nobody knew Lily and me, where I could just be openly gay without having to explain why I hid it for so long. But part of her wants to stay and fight, Lily added. She's seen what hiding does to people. She's watched me literally waste away from the stress of living a double life. She knows that running away might feel easier, but it won't actually solve anything. The parallel to my own experience was clear. I'd chosen to stay and fight when my parents tried to force me back into the closet, but it had cost me my family. Jessica would have to make a similar choice, but with the added weight of grief and the knowledge of what that choice had cost me. That's where you come in, Em, Lily said. Jessica's going to need someone who's been through this before, someone who can help her navigate the legal system, the family drama, the financial complications, someone who understands the cost of living authentically, but also knows that it's worth it. The request was enormous. They were asking me to become Jessica's family, her support system, her guide through the most difficult period of her life. We barely knew each other as adults, but I was the only person who could understand her situation. I want to help, I said aloud to the screen, even though I knew they couldn't hear me. I want to be there for her, as if she could hear my thoughts. Lily continued, I know it's a lot to ask. You've built a good life for yourself here in Portland. You have your work, your friends, your independence. Taking on Jessica's problems means getting dragged back into our family drama in a very public way. That was true. Fighting this legal battle would mean putting my private life on display, reliving the pain of being disowned, dealing with media attention and public scrutiny. I'd worked hard to build a quiet, stable life away from all that chaos. But Jessica is the best person I've ever known. She's kind and smart and funny, and she's been taking care of everyone else her whole life. She deserves to have someone take care of her for once. She deserves to have family that chooses to love her instead of using her. Jessica was crying again, but she managed a small smile. I've heard so many stories about you over the years, Emma. Lily talked about you constantly, how proud she was of your courage, how much she missed having you in her life. In a weird way, I feel like I already know you. She does know you, Lily said. I've told her about the time you stood up to that bully in middle school who was picking on the kids in special education, about how you used to sneak me extra cookies from the kitchen when Mom put me on those awful diets, about how you cried when we had to put down our cat whiskers, even though you pretended you didn't care about pets. Hearing these childhood memories was like being wrapped in a warm blanket. Despite everything that had gone wrong between us, Lily had held on to the good times, had shared them with the person she loved most. Jessica knows that you're someone who fights for people who can't fight for themselves, Lily continued. She knows that you're loyal and stubborn and that you don't give up when something matters. That's exactly what she's going to need. The camera shook slightly as Lily adjusted her position, and I could hear her breathing becoming more labored. These recordings were taking everything she had left. There's one more thing about Jessica that you need to know, Lily said, glancing at her partner with a mixture of love and sadness. She's been keeping a secret from me too, trying to protect me the same way I've been trying to protect everyone else. Jessica looked startled. Lily, you don't need to. Yes, I do, Lily said firmly. Em needs to know what she's getting into. She turned back to the camera. Jessica's been offered a job at Seattle Children's Hospital, head of pediatric oncology. It's an incredible opportunity, the kind of career advancement she's dreamed about for years. Seattle. That was only a few hours away, but it might as well be another world if Jessica was trying to escape the pain of Portland. I turned it down, Jessica said quietly. I couldn't leave Lily, especially not when she was sick, and I couldn't take a job that would require me to move away from the life we'd built together, even if it was a secret life. But the offer is still open, Lily continued. They said they'd hold the position for 6 months, hoping she'd change her mind. After I'm gone, Jessica could still take it. She could start fresh in Seattle, build a career where she's respected for her skills instead of pitied for being the woman who never found a husband. The opportunity sounded incredible, but I could also see the appeal of running away to a new city where nobody knew her story. Seattle would offer Jessica the chance to be openly gay from the start, to build relationships and a career without the weight of years of secrecy. I don't know what I want to do, Jessica admitted. Some days I think moving to Seattle would be the healthiest thing. A clean slate, a chance to figure out who I am when I'm not hiding. Other days I think staying in Portland would be better, facing the truth instead of running from it. That's why she needs you, Em, Lily said. She needs someone who understands both choices, someone who can help her think through the pros and cons without pressuring her either way. Someone who knows what it costs to stay and fight, but also what it costs to cut ties with everything familiar. The weight of responsibility was enormous, but I found myself wanting to take it on. Jessica had sacrificed years of her life to take care of my sister. The least I could do was help her figure out what came next. Jessica has copies of all the evidence too, Lily continued. If something happens to the USB drive I gave you, if our parents somehow find out about it and try to destroy it, she has backups of everything. She's also been documenting their behavior toward her, recording conversations, saving emails, keeping track of every time they've used her relationship as leverage. I've been building my own case, Jessica said, pulling out another folder. Emotional distress, financial abuse, violation of privacy. Marcus thinks I might have grounds for a lawsuit of my own, separate from the intellectual property case. The scope of legal action they were planning was breathtaking. Not only would my parents face consequences for stealing my work, but they'd also have to answer for years of psychological manipulation and abuse. The goal isn't just revenge, Lily said, as if reading my thoughts. It's accountability. Our parents need to understand that actions have consequences, that they can't destroy their children's lives without facing some kind of justice. Jessica nodded. And other families need to see what happens when parents choose prejudice over love. Maybe if this story gets enough attention, it will make some people think twice before they disown their gay kids. The camera was starting to lose focus, and I could see that Lily was fading fast. The effort of these recordings was clearly draining what little energy she had left. I need to rest now, she said, her voice barely audible. But Em, please promise me you'll take care of Jessica. Promise me you'll help her figure out how to build a life she doesn't have to hide from anyone. Jessica leaned over and kissed Lily's forehead, a gesture so tender and natural that it made me ache for what they'd been denied. No public affection, no wedding photos, no recognition of their love from the people who mattered most to them. I promise, I said aloud to the screen, knowing that Lily couldn't hear me, but needing to say the words anyway. One more video, Lily whispered. My goodbye, and the final plan. Everything you need to know to make this right. The screen went black again. Chapter 3 of 4. Continue watching? I looked out at the Portland skyline, thinking about Jessica somewhere in this city, probably sitting alone in the house she'd shared with my sister, preparing for a funeral where she'd have to hide her grief. Tomorrow, I would find her. Tomorrow, I would start keeping the promise I'd just made. But first, I needed to hear Lily's final words. I needed to know exactly what she wanted me to do with the truth she'd spent her last months documenting. I clicked Continue and prepared myself for my sister's goodbye. The fourth and final video was dated October 15th, the day before Lily died. She was in a hospital bed now, with more medical equipment visible in the background. Her breathing was labored, and speaking clearly required obvious effort, but her eyes were still sharp with purpose. Hi, Em. This is probably the last time I'll be able to talk to you, so I need to make it count. Jessica was sitting beside the bed again, holding Lily's hand. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days, but she was smiling encouragingly at Lily. I want to start with an apology, Lily continued, her voice weak but determined. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to stand with you when you came out. I'm sorry I let our parents use me as a weapon against you. I'm sorry I chose their approval over your well-being. And I'm sorry it took me dying to finally find the courage to do the right thing. Tears were streaming down my face as I listened to words I'd waited 11 years to hear. The apology I'd never expected. The acknowledgement of pain I'd carried alone for so long. But I need you to know that even though I was a coward, I never stopped loving you. Every family dinner where they badmouthed you, every holiday where they acted like you'd never existed, every time they held me up as the good daughter, it killed me a little more each time. Jessica squeezed Lily's hand, and I could see tears in her eyes too. She'd watched the woman she loved slowly destroy herself, trying to maintain an impossible balance. The cancer didn't just happen, Em. The doctors think the stress of living a double life, of carrying so many secrets, of constantly suppressing who I really was, it all contributed to making me sick. My body couldn't handle the contradiction between who I was and who I was pretending to be. The medical explanation was devastating but not surprising. I'd read about the health impacts of minority stress, the way that hiding one's identity could literally make people sick over time. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand that authenticity isn't just about being true to yourself, it's about survival. You chose to live openly, and it cost you your family. I chose to live secretly, and it cost me my life. There's no perfect choice, but there's definitely a wrong one. She paused to catch her breath, and Jessica helped her sip some water through a straw. Now, about the plan. Everything we've talked about in the previous videos, the lawsuit, the house, helping Jessica, exposing the truth, it all needs to happen in a very specific order for it to work. Despite her weakness, Lily's mind was still sharp, still focused on the logistics of justice. First, you need to wait until after the funeral to make contact with Jessica. Our parents can't know that you two are working together, at least not until the legal proceedings are underway. If they suspect anything beforehand, they might try to hide assets or pressure Jessica into silence. I'll be at the funeral, Jessica added, her voice steady despite her tears. I'll sit in the back, and I'll be watching for you. If you come, just make eye contact with me so I know you got the videos. Don't approach me there. Too many people will be watching. The choreography of their plan was careful and deliberate, designed to protect Jessica while maximizing the impact of the legal action. After the funeral, wait 3 days, Lily continued. Let our parents settle into thinking they've successfully kept you away from the family crisis. Then call Marcus Webb and tell him you're ready to proceed with the lawsuit. He'll file the papers that same day. Why 3 days specifically? I asked the screen, though I knew they couldn't hear me. As if anticipating my question, Lily explained, 3 days gives Mom and Dad time to start making plans for my estate, maybe even start talking about what to do with the house. It also gives Jessica time to finalize her mortgage approval and get the cash ready. But it's not so long that they have time to get suspicious or start moving money around. The strategic thinking was impressive. Even while dying, Lily was orchestrating a complex operation designed to catch our parents off guard. The lawsuit needs to be filed on a Friday, she continued. Marcus will make sure the media gets wind of it over the weekend, so by Monday morning, the story will be everywhere. Local news, tech blogs, maybe even national outlets if we're lucky. Why does media coverage matter? Jessica asked, though I suspected she already knew the answer. Because our parents' worst fear isn't losing money, it's losing face, Lily replied. They care more about their reputation than their bank account. When their friends, their business associates, their church community finds out what they did, that's when they'll really panic. The psychological insight was brutal, but accurate. My parents had always been obsessed with maintaining their image as successful, moral, family-oriented business owners. Having their hypocrisy exposed publicly would devastate them in ways that financial loss alone never could. The media attention will also put pressure on Chen Solutions clients, Lily continued. Nobody wants to do business with a company built on stolen intellectual property. Dad will start losing contracts within days of the story breaking. And that's when Jessica makes her move on the house, I said, finally understanding the full scope of their plan. Exactly, Lily confirmed. While they're scrambling to deal with the public relations nightmare and the legal pressure, Jessica approaches them through her lawyer about buying the house. She offers fair market value, cash deal, quick closing. They'll be so focused on trying to minimize their other losses that they might not even question why their daughter's friend wants to buy the property. The brilliance of it was that Jessica would be hiding in plain sight. To my parents, she was just a family friend making a reasonable business offer. They'd have no idea that she was actually securing her own financial future while helping to execute their downfall. But what if they refuse to sell? I asked the screen. They won't have a choice, Lily said, smiling weakly. The intellectual property damages are going to be significant enough that they'll need to liquidate assets to pay the judgment. The house is their biggest asset. They'll have to sell it whether they want to or not. Jessica pulled out a timeline they'd apparently worked out together, showing the sequence of events from the lawsuit filing to the final resolution. Every step was planned with military precision. "There's one more component to this plan," Lily said, her voice growing even weaker. "The personal videos I recorded, the ones where I talk about being gay and hiding it from the family. I want you to release those too, but not until after the legal case is resolved." The personal videos would be the emotional climax of the story, the human face on what might otherwise seem like a dry legal dispute. "I've recorded about an hour of footage talking about what it was like to live in the closet, what it cost me and Jessica, how the family's homophobia literally made me sick," Lily continued. "It's raw, Em. It's honest in ways I never was while I was alive, and it's going to break people's hearts." Jessica nodded, tears flowing freely now. She talks about our relationship, about the plans we made that we could never share with anyone, about the dreams we had to keep secret. "It's beautiful and terrible at the same time. The goal is to put a human face on the consequences of family rejection," Lily explained, "to show people that this isn't just about money or legal principles. It's about real people whose lives were destroyed by prejudice and greed." The emotional impact of hearing my sister talk openly about her sexuality, her relationship, her regrets, would be devastating for anyone who watched. But for parents of LGBTQ+ children, it might be life-changing. I want these videos to save other families, Em. I want parents to see what they're risking when they choose their reputation over their children's well-being. I want kids to see that they're not alone, that their sexuality isn't something to be ashamed of. That family rejection says more about the parents than about them. The legacy she was trying to create was powerful, turning her own pain into a tool for preventing others from experiencing the same thing. "Marcus has connections with LGBTQ+ advocacy organizations," Lily continued. "Once the legal case is resolved, he can help you get the personal videos to the right people, activists, educators, parents groups. The story could become part of training materials, advocacy campaigns, educational programs." The scope of impact they were envisioning was enormous. What had started as a family dispute could become a national conversation about parental acceptance and the real cost of prejudice. "But Em, I need you to promise me something," Lily said, looking directly into the camera with what little strength she had left. "Don't let this consume your life. Fight for justice. Help Jessica. Tell my story. But don't sacrifice your own happiness for revenge. You've already lost too many years to our family's dysfunction." The warning was important. It would be easy to become obsessed with the legal battle, to let the fight for justice become a substitute for actually living my life. "Promise me that when this is all over, you'll focus on building something positive," Lily continued. "Maybe that means helping Jessica figure out her next steps. Maybe it means starting the tech company you always dreamed about, with your own ideas this time. Maybe it means finding love again, building the family you choose instead of the one you were born into." Jessica leaned closer to the camera then. "Emma, I want you to know that Lily's last few months weren't all sadness and regret. Planning this with her, working together to build a case for justice, it gave her purpose when everything else was falling apart. She felt like she was finally doing something brave, something that mattered." "I'm not dying as a victim," Lily said, her voice gaining strength from somewhere deep inside. "I'm dying as someone who fought back, someone who refused to let her parents' cruelty go unchallenged. That means everything to me." The determination in her eyes reminded me of the sister I'd grown up with, the one who'd stood up to bullies and defended the underdog, before fear and family pressure had beaten that courage out of her. "The USB drive has everything you need," Lily continued. "Legal documents, financial records, personal videos, contact information for Marcus and Jessica, step-by-step instructions for each phase of the plan. You don't have to guess at anything. It's all laid out." She paused to catch her breath, and I could see that even this much talking was exhausting her. "Jessica, will you finish this for me?" Lily asked, settling back into her pillows. Jessica wiped her eyes and looked into the camera. "Emma, tomorrow morning I'm going to lose the love of my life, and I'm going to have to pretend it doesn't matter. I'm going to sit in that funeral and watch your parents receive sympathy for losing a daughter they threw away years ago. I'm going to watch them play the role of grieving parents while knowing they're the reason she got sick in the first place." Her voice was steady, but I could see the anger burning behind her grief. but I'm also going to be thinking about you, about the fact that someone finally knows the truth, about the possibility that this story might prevent other families from going through what ours did. I'm going to be thinking about the future we're building from the ashes of all this pain." Jessica reached for Lily's hand again, and I could see my sister smile even though her eyes were closed. "In 2 weeks, when the lawsuit is filed and the story breaks, your parents are going to realize that their perfect daughter spent her last months building a case against them. They're going to understand that their homophobia didn't just drive away one daughter, it killed the other one too. The final revelation would be devastating for my parents, but it would also be cathartic for everyone who'd been hurt by their choices." "Emma," Lily whispered, opening her eyes one last time, "I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry it took me so long to say it, but I'm saying it now. You were right to choose authenticity over acceptance. You were right to choose love over fear. And now it's time for the rest of us to make the same choice." The camera stayed focused on Lily's face as her breathing became more shallow. Jessica was holding her hand, stroking her hair, whispering words of love that the camera couldn't quite pick up. "Tell my story, Em," Lily breathed. "Make it matter. Make it count." The screen went black for the final time, showing end of recording. I sat in my apartment, rain beginning to fall again outside my windows, holding a USB drive that contained the power to destroy my parents' carefully constructed life and potentially save countless other families from experiencing the same pain. Tomorrow, I would go to my sister's funeral and pretend I didn't know she'd spent her last months building a case for justice. I would watch my parents play the role of grieving family while knowing they were the architects of their own tragedy. But in 3 days, I would call Marcus Webb and set in motion a plan that would expose the truth about Richard and Susan Chen, about their theft and their cruelty, about the daughter they drove away and the daughter they slowly killed with their expectations and their secrets. In 3 days, the real battle would begin. But tonight, I just needed to grieve for my sister, for the years we'd lost, for the woman she could have been if she'd been brave enough to live openly, for the love she'd shared with Jessica that no one had been allowed to celebrate. Tomorrow, I would start fighting for justice. Tonight, I would just miss my sister and prepare to honor her final request. The story was ending, but the real work was just beginning. The Seattle Children's Hospital cafeteria buzzed with the quiet energy of families grabbing quick meals between visiting hours. I found Jessica at a corner table, still wearing her scrubs from the pediatric oncology ward, looking tired but genuinely happy for the first time since I'd known her. "How was your first week as department head?" I asked, sliding into the seat across from her. "Overwhelming," she admitted, smiling. "But good overwhelming. I'm actually using my skills instead of hiding them, working with kids who need advocates instead of pretending to be someone I'm not." The Seattle job had turned out to be exactly what Jessica needed. A fresh start where she could be openly gay from day one, where her colleagues knew her as the brilliant oncologist who'd fought to change outdated family policies instead of the closeted woman who'd been afraid of her own shadow. "Any word from Portland?" she asked, though we both knew the answer. "The divorce was finalized yesterday," I said. "Dad's moving into an apartment downtown. Mom's keeping the house, but she'll have to sell it within the year to pay the remaining judgment." The legal case had unfolded exactly as Lily had planned. The intellectual property lawsuit had been settled for $6.2 million, plus Jessica had successfully purchased her house for fair market value during the asset liquidation. Chen Solutions had collapsed within 6 months, and my parents' social circle had largely abandoned them once the full story became public. "How are you feeling about it all?" Jessica asked, the question she'd been asking me regularly as I'd worked through the complex emotions of watching my parents' life fall apart. "Sad," I said honestly. "Relieved, angry, proud, all at the same time." The media attention had been intense, but ultimately positive. Lily's personal videos had gone viral, sparking national conversations about family acceptance and the health consequences of forced closeting. 3 families had reached out to me directly, saying the story had convinced them to reconcile with children they'd previously disowned. "Marcus called this morning," I continued. "The advocacy organization wants to feature Lily's story in their next campaign about family acceptance. They're calling it the Lily Chen Project." Jessica's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. She would have loved that. having her name attached to something that helps other families. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the Seattle skyline through the cafeteria windows. Jessica had bought a small condo within walking distance of the hospital, her first home that was truly hers, where she could display photos of herself and Lily without fear. "I have news," I said finally. "I'm starting the tech company." Jessica's face lit up. "Emma, that's amazing. With the settlement money?" "Some of it," I said, "but also with 2 partners who believe in building ethical technology that actually helps people. We're focusing on healthcare management software, systems that recognize diverse family structures, that don't assume heterosexual nuclear families are the only kind that matter." It felt right, using money recovered from my parents' theft to build something that would help families like ours, creating technology that reflected the reality of modern relationships instead of reinforcing outdated assumptions. "Lily would be so proud," Jessica said, reaching across to squeeze my hand. "She always said you were going to change the world with your code." "We're going to change the world," I corrected. "I want you to be our medical consultant. Help us build systems that actually serve the families who need them most." Jessica had become the sister I'd never expected to gain from this tragedy. We'd supported each other through the legal proceedings, through the media attention, through the complex grief of mourning someone while simultaneously fighting for justice in her name. "There's something else," I said, pulling out my phone to show her a photo. "I want you to meet Sarah." The photo showed me with a woman about my age, both of us laughing at something just outside the frame. We were holding hands, looking relaxed and happy. "Sarah from college?" Jessica asked, surprised. "Different Sarah," I said. "Sarah Kim. She's a lawyer who specializes in LGBTQ+ family law. We met when she reached out after seeing Lily's story in the news. She wanted to volunteer her services for other families going through similar situations." Jessica grinned. "And now you're dating your volunteer lawyer. That's very rom-com of you." "We're taking it slow," I said, though I couldn't stop smiling. "But she's amazing, Jess. She's brilliant and kind, and she understands why this work matters. She knew Lily's story before she knew me, which means she knows exactly what I've been through." It felt good to be building something positive from the wreckage of the past year. The relationship with Sarah was still new, but it was based on shared values and mutual respect instead of just attraction or convenience. "Have you heard anything from your parents?" Jessica asked, the question I'd been dreading. "Dad sent a letter last week," I said. "Through his lawyer, not directly. It was not an apology, exactly. More like an explanation. He still thinks he was justified in taking my intellectual property because I abandoned the family. But he acknowledged that Lily's death was partly his fault. It wasn't the full accountability I'd hoped for, but it was more than I'd expected. My father was still fundamentally unable to see how his actions had hurt his daughters, but at least he was beginning to understand that there had been consequences. And Mom? Nothing from Mom. She's apparently telling people that Lily was manipulated by the cancer medication, that she wasn't thinking clearly when she made the videos. I shrugged. I think she honestly believes that. It's easier than accepting responsibility. Jessica nodded sadly. She'd had similar experiences with her own parents, who'd struggled to understand why she'd moved to Seattle and taken such a public stance on LGBTQ+ issues. Unlike my parents, though, hers were slowly coming around, attending PFLAG meetings and trying to educate themselves about their daughter's life. "Do you ever think about reconciling with them?" Jessica asked. It was a question I'd been grappling with for months. The anger had faded somewhat, replaced by a deep sadness for the family we could have been if they'd chosen love over fear. "Sometimes," I admitted, "but not on their terms. If they ever want a relationship with me, it has to be based on accepting who I actually am, not who they want me to be. And it has to include acknowledgement of what they did to Lily." Jessica nodded. "That's fair. Healthy boundaries aren't the same thing as unforgiveness." We finished our coffee and prepared to head back to our respective lives. Jessica to her afternoon rounds with young cancer patients, me to the airport for my flight back to Portland, where I was meeting with potential investors for the new company. "I'm proud of us," Jessica said as we hugged goodbye, "for surviving this, for fighting back, for building something positive from all that pain." "Lily would be proud too," I said. We kept our promises to her. As I drove to the airport, I thought about the past 6 months, about the ways that tragedy had unexpectedly led to growth and connection. I'd gained a sister in Jessica, found love with Sarah, started a company that reflected my values, and helped tell a story that might prevent other families from experiencing the same pain. The cost had been enormous: a sister's life, parents' love, years of family relationships that could never be recovered. But something meaningful had been built from that loss, something that honored Lily's memory while creating possibilities for the future. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "How did the visit with Jessica go? Can't wait to hear about it tonight over dinner. Love you." I smiled and typed back, "It went perfectly. See you tonight. Love you too." The future was uncertain, but it was authentically mine. I was building a life based on truth instead of lies, love instead of fear, chosen family instead of biological obligation. It was exactly what Lily had wanted for me, and exactly what she'd never had the courage to build for herself. But in the end, she'd found her courage. She'd used her final months to fight for justice and truth, to protect the person she loved, and to create a legacy that would help other families avoid the same mistakes. Her story was over, but the ripple effects would continue for years to come. Every family that stayed together because of her example, every parent who chose acceptance over rejection, every young person who felt less alone because they'd heard her truth, that was Lily's real inheritance. It was enough. It was everything. It was love.